Big shout out to Bean Working Espresso down in Skyring Terrace, Newstead.
Best coffee in the game.
Best absolute coffee in the game. Hooking the Platform podcast, and any listeners up with a 10% discount.
Shout out.
Shout out to Yolanda.
Yolanda.
That was a mouthful.
Their coffee's real fucking good. Get
Best coffee in the game, by far. Just opened up Skyring Terrace. You can order ahead and mention the Platform podcast for a 10% discount. This is the Platform podcast with B-Bad and Brandon. It's funny though, because I realized he was actually dyslexic when one of our other guests, Paul, is dyslexic, and Johnny sent me this message one day that I could not understand for the life of me. But Paul could. Yeah, he understood. He's like, "Oh yeah, it just means this." I'm like, "How the fuck did you get that?" So yeah, Johnny, we've now discovered.
Me and Paul get it.
Yeah, the communication is great.
Oh. I just get excited and leave words out.
Or letters.
Yeah.
Or just,
yeah.
You're being efficient.
Exactly right.
Is dyslexia the way forward? That's what we're going to discuss on this episode.
It's a different language.
I don't know if I can help you there.
Yeah, I was like, ooh. I feel like sometimes I am with the way I went through English in high school, but this last time, actually, I studied English at uni for a semester, and then I was like, actually,
Really?
fuck this, yeah.
Yeah, right.
And that's why I switched to geography. But welcome to the Platform podcast episode, whatever the hell it is, because I have no...
Mid-50s.
No, this will be episode 56.
Is it?
Because we don't have any in the bank, do we? Yeah, and we're uploading 55 tomorrow. Oh, look at us knowing it.
Wow.
Episode 56.
Dyslexic or not, we can count.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we welcome today Glenn Azar. Welcome, sir.
Thanks, boys. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, actually. How are you?
What have you been doing today?
Excellent.
Anything exciting?
Mate, we've just ran a couple of sessions down at our gym. So we've got a gym that we run sort of more boot camp style stuff. Boxing, obviously, my background. And on Saturdays, we run a thing called Dog Squad.
I just saw that, actually.
Yeah, so we train a lot of footy players or ex-footy players and males and females. And so we call it our game day. So we'll team them up in teams of 3 to 5 people of mixed fitness levels from, teenagers through to people in their 50s, and they'll all just jump in and train together. And they love it because a lot of the footy players say it's literally like playing a game again, which they've lost when they get out of their sport. So, yeah, it's good fun. So today was probably our biggest turnout since post-COVID. So,
sick.
Yeah, it was good fun. Good energy.
Well, we've gotten a little too far ahead, and we apologise. It's your fault, actually.
It always is, because I forget about we have like a structure.
We have a loose structure.
It's super loose.
With very important questions.
The N10 are the better ones.
Oh, I'm really pumped for the first answer on the N10 for Glenn.
Don't put me under pressure.
Now,
I stalk your Instagram. You're used to it.
Yeah,
You're good.
I'm very wordy.
all right, sir. You have 21 words to describe who you are and what you do. Brandon counts the words and the sounds.
So no ums or ahs.
No arms, ahs,
any
giggles,
laughs,
laughs, grunts,
everything counts.
burps. Are you ready? Starts now.
I am a former soldier. These days I run an adventure company leading people all around the world, mindset coach, own a gym.
I'm going to say I was roughly 21 because you spoke so quickly. I was like, oh, shit. But 21, well done. Yeah, well done.
So I get 21 words and fast.
Yes.
Yeah, it was great.
Trying to be efficient.
You do some things, bro. That must keep you pretty busy.
Everything I do, to be honest, I get asked this all the time about how does, you run a gym and you run, an adventure business and blah, blah, blah. But it's all one thing to me. It's all building better humans.
Yep.
So I view everything that we do, I view adventure as the best personal development in the world, followed very closely by what we do, what you guys do as well, our physical capacity to do things. That's what adventure is.
Yep.
So people are able to go and walk the Kokoda Track or climb Mount Everest or, it doesn't matter. There's something that we can all do. It takes physical capacity to do it. And then mindset, I think, underpins all of that. So literally all the things that we do are tied together by what I call building better humans.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
Because I did a bit of Instagram stalking before you came on, and I saw one post and you spoke about you can do anything, but you can't do everything.
Yeah.
And that I love that.
Well, in society today, particularly younger generations, there's so much distraction available to us that people want to be everything and they can't. And I don't think social media itself puts people under stress or pressure. I think it's the fact that there are so many options that they don't have the ability to narrow themselves down and go, I can literally do anything I want if that's all I put myself to, but they don't. So not to get ahead of where this conversation could end up, but I've worked with a lot of specialist athletes and soldiers my whole life. And my daughter, for example, climbed Mount Everest. Now, I was there for that process, obviously, and guiding her through not just the physical training, but the mindset. There was 5 years where nothing happened outside of Everest. That's all she cared about. So she was literally just, her whole room had nothing in it but stuff to do with climbing. There was no waste. She doesn't waste words. She doesn't waste energy. Everything was around that.
Wow.
Getting her to do anything outside of that was really hard, but she had that one thing. I'd imagine it's the same for an Olympian or for anything that you want to be. I'd imagine, 10 years of studying medicine, which is not something I could do, but I'd imagine it's the same. If they do one thing, they can do it phenomenally well. But for the general population, we try and do everything and a little piece of everything and just run out of time.
It's kind of like that old, jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then once you find your little niche thing, whatever you want to do, and you go into it, you can get really good results at anything.
If you legitimately dedicate yourself to one thing, which most of us wouldn't, but say you did, you could become the best in the world at it.
100%.
There's some natural ability, but natural ability will just get run over by someone that's willing to work hard consistently over a long period of time. We live in a society where we're in for the short. We want the immediate gratification. We need the feedback straight away, and if we don't get that feedback straight away, we give up on stuff. I coach people, and they'll say, "I've tried everything," and it doesn't matter what the problem presents with. I've literally tried everything. Okay, everything. So just write out 100 things you've tried. Well, I probably can write out 100. That's cool. Just give me 50, and then eventually they can come up with 3. Okay, so you probably haven't tried everything.
I love that one. It's the best.
So you said your daughter climbed Mount Everest?
Yeah, so I've got 4 children. My oldest daughter's just turned 25 yesterday.
How old was she when she climbed?
So that's my second daughter. She had her first attempt on Everest at 17, and there was a natural disaster that killed 11 climbers, so they closed the mountain. She was on her own. I wasn't with her. She then went over again at 18. There was an earthquake that killed 10,000 people through the whole country, so again the mountain was shut down. She actually got buried in her tent on that one and had to dig herself out. There were 21 deaths in base camp, the biggest amount of deaths on a single Everest season ever. From an avalanche that was created. Base camp's normally the safe place on the mountain. She then went back again at 19 and successfully summited. Took her year of her 20th birthday off, and then at 21 went back and climbed again from the other side. So she's the youngest Australian to climb Everest and the youngest woman in the world ever to climb from both the north and south routes. So that was a process.
All done by 20?
Yeah, or by 21.
By 21?
Both. Yeah.
Just kind of really reflecting what I've done with my life right now.
Well, I remember
That's
that.
insane.
I was in the army at that age, but I remember at 20, when I turned 20, age has never worried me. I'm nearly 50. Doesn't mean anything.
Are you
to
really
me.
nearly 50?
Yeah. So I'm 48.
Yeah, fuck.
So.
I honestly thought you were late 30s.
It's because I got no hair, so it shaves all the grey out.
There you go. My age radar is off.
Yeah, so
He's just laughing. He's like, no, he's definitely 48.
My maturity's probably closer to the 30s, but so I'm nearly 50, and age has never worried me. But I remember turning 20 and thinking, what have I done with my life? My teenage years are gone, and I was in the army doing cool stuff. But then I look at what she's done and go, I feel like I haven't done much. But again, that's someone who just focused on one thing and became so damn good at that one thing, which I'm glad, because climbing Everest is not like any other sport. It's life or death, literally.
Right.
So, you want them, if it's one of your kids, you want them to focus on that stuff.
And was she interested in that through what you do yourself, or?
I took her to Kokoda, which is what I mostly do. So I've personally done 79 Kokoda Track crossings in PNG. That's
wow.
I literally do. These days, normally about 10 a year when COVID not happening. I took her when she was 8 years old the first time. She was the youngest person ever to do that at the time. And that just started a bug. Now, I remember day 2 of that trip, and she turned around and said to me, "Hey, Dad, have you ever climbed Mount Everest?" And
on day 2?
Yeah, and I don't know why that popped in her head. We'd never talked about it, but I said no, because if I had, you would have heard about it. It's the kind of thing you talk about, right? So that's the first time I remember her talking about it. And then when she was 14, we just talked about this the other day. I was at a talk. I do a lot of mindset talks around goal setting and everything else. So we're doing this talk, and there were just people asking questions. I was talking about how you support your children but don't clear the way for them. Maybe she was 13. And in that talk, I said, as an example, like if one of my kids wanted to climb Mount Everest, I would let them. Like I wouldn't say no, but I'd work out how to do it. And when we're leaving that talk, it was a split second in an hour and a half talk. We're walking home because we lived just near where I was doing the talk, and she said to me, "Were you serious if I wanted to climb Mount Everest, you'd let me?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I guess so." Hadn't really thought about it to that level. And then a year later, we did Mount Kilimanjaro. She was 14, and on the way down, she said, "I want to climb Mount Everest." So that's how it started.
How it started.
Yeah,
That's fucking insane.
But she says she can remember Everest for as long as she has memories. So, you know, at 5 or 6 when we started having really formed memories, she just always remember Everest being a thing for her.
That's incredible.
Oh, we just synced.
Yeah.
Nice work.
Yeah, we did. That'd have been a pretty cool experience climbing Kilimanjaro with your daughter as well, wouldn't it?
That was good. I actually went and did Kilimanjaro two weeks apart. So I summited one Friday with one group, and then a new group flew in and I summited on the next Friday, and she was in the second group. So that was pretty cool. I don't know if you boys have done anything at altitude, but altitude sucks as a rule. So
yeah, what's that like?
So if you're at Everest Base Camp, so 5,000 metres, you're breathing about 11% oxygen. We're normally breathing 21%, so half as much oxygen. So your resting heart rate when you're sitting down is around 90 to 100. You're not doing anything. You walk up a set of stairs and you can feel your heart rate go up as if you're running, but it's weird because your brain knows that I'm physically barely moving.
Yeah.
So that's there, and at the top of Everest, it's something like 4%. Or I don't know the exact number of that, but it's a lot lower again. So, yeah, I remember doing Kili the first time, and then the following Friday thinking, it'll be easier because I've been at altitude.
Yeah.
It was no easier.
No easier.
It's a tough mountain, that one. No.
Fucking hell. That's insane.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good life. So we get to take people away. So I took her the week before I took all these executives from National Australia Bank.
Yep.
So we get to take high-functioning humans in other fields, like really intelligent people who've got good careers, and we get to go out and put them into, I guess, an area that I dealt with in the military, because for 17 years in the army I literally carried a backpack around.
Yeah.
So it's kind of our skill set, I guess, is leading people in high pressure environments, which it is. When you get people who are used to being really comfortable and they get put under that sort of pressure, it changes people. And then there are points where in every adventure I've been on where someone wants to quit. And your job is to not let them do that, because the benefit if they don't do that is far better for them.
Yeah.
I've had people absolutely guarantee me, you need to get me out of here. And I've stuck with them and we've talked them through it, and I don't baby people. And at the other end, they'll just quietly come up and go, "Hey, thanks for not flying me out, because you didn't give up on them."
Yep.
Because that becomes a habit. Giving up becomes a habit.
Yeah.
So I had a guy once on a Kokoda trip who was just injured. He was another ex-soldier, and he said to me, my back's playing up, I need to get out of here. And I didn't sense that was entirely true. So I'm having a chat with him, and then this was like 5 o'clock in the morning before I'd woken everyone else up, and he said, I've quit on everything I've ever done in my life since he got out. And I said, well, how about we stop doing that?
Yeah.
Like, this is a chance to stop doing that, you know.
Yeah,
so
break the habit for him.
And whether that goes on and helps him in other areas, I don't know, but it's got to be better than quitting all the time.
Yeah, certainly got to put him in the right direction.
Yeah, well, I think success and failure are both self-feeding animals. You get a bit of success, as you know, we feel a bit upbeat about life, and we'll have another crack at something else. It'll be no different than people lifting and getting a PB, and you know what it's like. Like a kilo or 2 kilo difference in a lift is massive when you've been trying to get it. But then all of a sudden, a year later, they're 5 kilos above that, or whatever the case may be. It's no different in everything else.
Yeah.
Like those little bits of success just give you that little bit of impetus to go, all right, because we have good weeks and bad weeks in anything. So you just can feed them a little bit of something, and then they'll go on to the next thing, in my experience anyway.
Absolutely. Agreed.
So how did it all start for you, the adventure stuff? Was it straight out of the military? And
Well, I was in the military, so in the army, I started out as an infantry soldier at 8-9 in Brisbane, which is an infantry battalion here in Brizzy, and I broke my leg in 2 places. This is kind of sliding door moment. So I was doing a bayonet assault course. I landed incorrectly, jumping into a pit, and broke my leg. And it just took a long time to heal. And so the army basically said, if you want to stay in, you've got to go and do another job. I only wanted to be a gunfighter because I was a young man, I was angry, I was, and someone was paying me to potentially go and fight wars, which at 17, 18, 19, you thought, that's really cool. As you get a bit older, and having been to a couple of those wars now, which I enjoyed that side of the military still, but you realise I was very naive at 17, 18, thinking that was going to be fun. But so I went away and they turned me into a medic, which was the last thing I wanted to be. But it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened. I specialised in aviation medicine. So I specialised in Iroquois and Black Hawk helicopter evacuations.
Oh, wow.
So all of my deployments overseas were not done as an infantry soldier, they were done in medical evacuation fields. So I'm flying around all these different third world countries and doing some pretty cool stuff. A couple of years before I got out, these mates of mine who were in the army, one was an ex-Special Air Service soldier, so an ex-SAS guy, Kokoda was really new then. So this is in late 90s, early 2000s. And they were taking all the executives from Westpac across the track, and they needed to put safety parameters because New Guinea was scary to people.
Yeah.
Back in those days, a few hundred people a year are crossing Kokoda. You know, in its heyday, sort of pre-GFC, 9,000 people a year. So back then, no one was doing it. And one of the things they wanted was to have an aviation medic so who could evacuate them, because you've only got satellite phone out there, nothing else works. So they put a shout out to the Army because they were still connected to us. I was still in. When you've got a trade like medical, the Army will let you go and do that trade. Like I would go and work with the AMBOs, I'd go into hospitals and just volunteer my time. The hospitals, the AMBOs would then pay the Army, and the Army just kept paying me my normal wage so that I could get experience.
Yeah, right.
I couldn't sit around for 2 or 3 years and wait for another deployment. You
Yeah,
can't
keep
maintain your skills.
Yeah.
So that's what I would do. And then this job came up looking for an aviation medic, and I went to my boss and he said, yeah, off you go. Literally useless as far as a medical background because of, you know, what do you get, some blisters? But on paper, something really bad could happen. So that started, and I remember doing that, and I did 3 or 4 of those, and I thought, I could do this for a job. I don't know anyone that does this full-time for a job, of course, but I do now. It's become a job. But back then I thought, this is the only time I've thought about doing anything outside of the military. Then I started to get to this stage where I love the Army, and I did 17 years, but at that sort of year 13, 14, I started to think about getting out purely because I've got a son. I have 3 daughters and 1 son. My son's now 16. He's mentally 5 years old, so he's intellectually impaired and he's autistic. And so he's a very, very, you know, high functioning but very special needs. And so right now we're going through a 16-year-old going through puberty with the brain of a 5-year-old who's angry all the time but has no control over it, who's believes in Santa and loves Spider-Man and Thomas the Tank Engine, but he's going through puberty. It's really hard. And I knew then that it's for the first time in my life I went, I can't really afford to die. Like, I liked going into war zones. I never once thought about dying, but of course that can happen to us.
Yeah.
Never ever thought about it. With him, I thought he's going to be a 40-year-old man one day that needs us to look after him. So now I no longer have the luxury of just throwing my life away for the greater cause, which I'm very patriotic, and that's what I believed. My family actually needs me, or particularly he needs me. My 3 daughters, they'll get themselves through life, but my son needs me to be around. So that was the change, and then I'm doing these adventures, and then slowly just started to transition into it. Got out of the Army in 2009 and started at the end of 2009 and started my business in 2010.
Straight into it.
Yeah. Like everyone that starts business, you know, I had these great ideas. I'm really good at what I do, and I'll open the doors and we'll just get flooded because I'm that good. Anyway, that didn't happen. the usual stuff.
There's
you
the
know?
punchlines. Oh,
Yeah, you open the
get
doors
fined.
and there's crickets. And my first Kokoda trip, I took 4 people, so I lost money.
Yep.
But I'd made a commitment to take these people, and I thought it was a good opportunity to get some marketing.
Yep.
And then the business just grew out of that. You think all these years later, you know, Alyssa climbing Mount Everest, and me, I've done 13 summits of Kilimanjaro on 15 climbs over there. There's twice that I didn't summit, just once being unwell myself and once helping someone else down. Everest Base Camp 13 times, 79 times across the Kokoda Track, which I'll easily do 100 of those. I don't know when that'll stop.
Yep.
I am going to pare it back a bit after next year, but just because I want to do some other stuff more than anything else. But I love it. It's my favourite trip. We go dog sledding up in the Yukon, so we take people up to the Yukon.
That looks really
You give them their own 6 to 8 dogs, and they get to run their own dogs for 8 days up in the Yukon. It's phenomenal, amazing trip. Not physically hard at all, but amazing. Whereas everything else I do is quite physically difficult. Not that one. That's. I mean, it gets to minus 30 degrees. Like it gets cold. Yeah, but you have all specialist gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
fucking cold. You guys like, that's cold. No, that's...
You're not just running around with the shirt off on that one.
No, gosh.
Well, I got there one year at minus 27, and I remember like 3 or 4 days later, it had moved up to about minus 7, and you acclimatise really quickly.
Yeah.
At minus 7, we were running around in T-shirts on because it's 20 degrees warmer than what it was 2 days before. Your body starts to acclimatise. It's crazy. But then I've also been out there, not this year, that was the last trip we've done this year, was we went and did the Yukon at the beginning of the year, but the year before we got to minus 53. Nothing happens at minus 53.
Jesus.
I can't even like put that into my head, like what that would actually feel like.
Well, what I can tell you in my experience, once you get colder than minus 20, it's just bloody cold. Like I feel like there's no great change from minus 20 to minus 40. It's just cold. Like,
Fucking hell.
It's literally like if you get on YouTube, you'll see where people throw a boiling cup of water up in the air and it freezes in the air as soon as it comes out of the cup. I've done that. You can literally do that. It's that cold.
I don't know where Jason is right now, but Jason, you got to put that in the YouTube.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Wow.
I didn't know that's a thing.
Yeah, look it up. Yeah, so people just get like a boiling out of the kettle water and then throw it up in the air and it'll freeze while it's in the air. That's that cold.
Damn.
Yes, I don't like the cold at all.
I don't like the cold at all.
And then,
I prefer the heat, don't get me wrong. I prefer the jungles of New Guinea.
Yep.
Alyssa, my daughter's the opposite. She prefers the cold. Her first summit of Mount Everest was at minus 40. Her second summit was at minus 62 or 61.
Your daughter's tougher than me. 100%.
You're tougher than me, but...
Wow. Have you ever been up top of Everest yourself?
No. And to
Is
be
it on
honest,
your
it
list at all,
hasn't
or?
interested me.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's something you play with. I think a lot of people go and do it, look, we could all do it, to be honest, if we had the right support around us. And there are really wealthy people that go and get 4 or 5 climbers around them, and their job is to help guide you up, and you've just got to deal with the suffering, I guess, of being at high altitude. But to do it at the way that someone like Alyssa does it, so she's got enough experience, she's allowed to go and climb a mountains like that with no one else around her. So she went over with her and one Sherpa for her summit with the cheapest company you can go with, which is a Sherpa-owned company. So when I say cheapest, you're talking 29 grand US to climb Everest. For any of us to go, you'll pay 70 to 100 grand US because we don't have the skills. So therefore they've got to put a group of people around us who do have the skills to get us through it. But then me personally, and people might take this the wrong way, but I don't think you can truly say you summited something like that if you needed 4 other people to drag you up there.
Yeah.
But I get it. That's what some people are in for. That's their call.
That's insane.
That's crazy. So what would be the next adventure for you if you could do something?
Interestingly, probably not an adventure as such. So what I don't do is take holidays ever. So there are like I'd like to go, again, post-COVID, I'd like to go to America, go to New York, go and just do normal stuff. I don't do that and haven't done it for years because I'll spend 150 days a year overseas on adventures, sleeping in tents, which I'm fine with, carrying a backpack, that sort of adventure. There are like these glass igloos up in Finland or Norway and places I'd like to go and visit. So not hard adventures. Alyssa's talked about somewhere down the track climbing K2, which is the second highest mountain in the world and considered considerably harder than Everest because its difficulty, high death rates, there's all these things that go on there. You've got to be a true climber. Like novices, you can't pay someone to drag them up that one. You've got to be a climber. But the base camp trek is supposed to be really tough as well. And I've always said if she did that, I'd like to go into base camp with her, which would probably be my limit of adventure, to be truthful, as far as like physically pushing myself through. I'm mentally strong, I believe, but I also think if you're going to be mentally strong, you also got to want to do something. So most of us can be mentally strong if it comes down to survival because we want to survive. It's a human instinct. But to put yourself through suffering, it's no different than a business. Don't open a business if you think it's going to be all smooth sailing, right? Because everyone thinks that, and business is hard. Like at the best of times, it's hard. It's rewarding, but it's bloody hard, and we all know that. So climbing Everest, if you're not open to the idea that it's going to be hard and you could die, don't do it. So, it doesn't really interest me. It's a long way of saying it doesn't really.
That's insane.
Yeah.
But, and obviously thanks to COVID, obviously you're not doing these treks at Kokoda at the moment. Is that on the card soon to reopen, or do you have no idea?
Look, we don't know when the borders will open, right? So I think it won't be till next year now. It's caused a reset for me, and I'm probably the same for a lot of people. Pre-COVID, I was asked to do a lot of things. So I work a lot in the coaching space with companies from Telstra down to individuals, teenagers, business owners, it doesn't matter. So I work with a whole heap of people. A year ago, I worked and did a men's mental health night for the Terry White Kenmark group because I'd taken some of them away to Kokoda. And so there's a lady, Karen Brown, who owns 2 pharmacies, one at Arana Hills, one at Sanford in Brisbane. And she had this idea that we're doing all of this stuff, particularly in pharmacies for women. They're following women's whole journey from teenagers going through puberty, through pregnancies, through to the older women. But there's not much happening in the men's space. And the biggest health issue for men as a rule is mental health. So she started this thing 2 years ago, and then I was the third one. So I went and did a talk. It was really popular. Now, the first couple she did, they had well-known people. So they had Wally Lewis do one. They had Alistair Lynch, I think it was, one of the Lions, from back in the three-peat days, do one. And then me. So I'm nobody. So I had to have much better content because I don't have any footy stories. So I get in there, do a really good job, I think. They were raved about it. And then some parents came in and said, we need to do something like this for teenage boys. So what came of that is I said, yeah, I'd love to one day when we find time.
Yep.
And that just sat. COVID hit, and all of a sudden I had
Got
to.
no
All the time, yeah.
So we got back in touch, and we ran our first one at the time of us recording this. We ran that 4 weeks ago. We had 110 teenage boys turn up.
That's awesome.
From all different schools,
Different
some on their
ages.
own, 13 to 18-year-olds. None of them wanted to be there because it was mums and dads saying,
You're
you're the problem, so we need you to go to this thing. But then what I did was I backed that up 2 weeks later and ran one for the parents.
Great.
Coaches, teachers, because I think as adults we need to work out how to guide these young men through the world. Because I have an issue with toxic masculinity. I don't think there's anything toxic about being masculine. I think you can be toxic, you can be an idiot, but masculinity itself shouldn't be a taboo topic. And so we need to teach these young men how to be young men and not to be scared of being young men. But right now there's a lot of confusion for them because, do I be a man or don't I? There are natural things that we do, aggressiveness and physicality, and that I think need to be encouraged and explored as opposed to being told that's not cool anymore.
Yeah.
Because, again, I just hate the fact that we put those two words together. So I work with the parents, and then coming up on Wednesday, as we're recording this a few days away, I'm doing one with both. I'm bringing both into the room together. Now, the Terry White Chemmark Group want to take that national.
Really?
I think that could become a bigger arm of our business than the adventure business, believe it or not. And again, I think adventure's one piece of the personal development puzzle. So what we have across the front of our gym is fitness, mindset, adventure. We think your physical health, because this is the one vehicle that you get to do whatever you want to do with your life, has to happen out of this vehicle. Once it fails you, you're done. Like, there's nothing else you can do. You can have all the money in the world, it doesn't mean anything. If you've got poor relationships and poor physical health, what does it mean? So mindset then follows that up, because that helps us to, what good stuff we're putting in. It's why podcasts are so big now, because I don't want to listen to the dribble on the radio or the negative news, or I barely watch the news. I don't even have normal TV channels at home. Yeah. So if I want to watch something, it's like a Netflix where I watch it all without the ads. If I want to listen to something, it's a podcast where I listen to something I want to listen to without the ads, and you get knowledge out of it. And then the adventure side. So what I've realised is that coaching piece will be the biggest thing that we do. We will still go back to adventure, but I've made the decision that after next year, I'm not going to do 10 Kokodas a year. I've got a team who can do it. My ego makes me want to do it, because I'm better at it than they are, of course, because they've done 10 and I've done 80 nearly.
Yeah.
But if I give them the opportunity to be better, they'll be better as well.
Yep.
So there's heaps of, like every game, there's levels, right? So when I started on Kokoda, there were 4 companies doing it. Now there's about 50 by name. Now some of those are absolute crap. Some of those are amazing. Probably a handful are amazing, and in the middle is everyone else. I think we're at the amazing end of what we do. We're very good at what we do, but I built the whole business around me, which doesn't make much sense. But now what I want to do is go out and start. So there's an analogy about, we can keep plucking people out of the river all day long who are drowning and who are struggling, but at some point someone has to go upriver and find out why they're falling in. And to me, that's working with kids. So it's about working out with young teenagers, and not just men. We're starting with boys, but then we'll do a whole series for girls as well, because whilst there's a lot out there for them, there still needs to be some empowerment of women. I'll give you an example of that. So when I did the boys chat, I've got a young fellow I've been working with who's a football player. I'll say an ex-football player at this stage, named Jaden Nikarima. His brother plays for the Warriors. He was in the Brisbane Broncos junior system. He was on a $700,000 contract at 18 years of age. Got done for drugs at 19, lost his contract. He was in the middle of a negotiation with the Broncos, 2 weeks away from signing a $1.2 million contract. So this is big money. So he's probably lost himself $2 million. Went through a spiral, started to really struggle with his mental health. He will openly tell you now, suicidal, party drugs, the whole thing. This is all by the age of 22. The society's given up on him and told him that he's just a bad person, and he's not. He's from a really good family. I did a camp for the Dolphins Rugby League in December. That's where I first met him. He reached out to me 3 or 4 days later. I started working with him. We've totally flipped this young bloke around. Like, I would be proud to walk into any building with him. He's starting to do these talks with me, and he's not great at them yet. And the feedback we're getting from the young boys is, because he's only 23 now, and the feedback we're getting is that his nervousness makes them feel good, because they see him as his football player. There's still photos of him playing at the Broncos, and so he's someone that they think they want to be, and he's nervous to talk to us. They like that. alternative side to that is when I go and talk at girls' schools, because I'll do a talk and then Jaden will back me up, and then when I go to the girls' schools, I'll do a talk and Alyssa will back me up. She's the exact same age as Jaden, 4 weeks between them. She's a really good public speaker because she's been doing it for so long, and the girls like her confidence because the girls aren't used to seeing girls stand up and be that confident. But for boys, we're used to men standing up and being confident and dominating. So if they see guys like you or I be a bit nervous about something, oh wow, so even big strong blokes can be nervous about something. It doesn't mean that you're not alpha or you're not tough or you're not masculine. It's just you're vulnerable enough to go, yeah, that makes me nervous too. And so it's really interesting watching this develop. I'm studying psychology at the moment. I probably should have told you that
as well. You got that thrown in there as well.
Well, I started
just
that
in the side there.
Not to be a psychologist, just because human development and the human brain amazes me, and I know that that's my future, and I'm a lifelong learner. So at 48, I want to still be doing this in 10 years' time. At 58, I always jokingly maybe say to people that when I die, I want it to be on the side of a mountain somewhere, which would be really traumatic for the group I'm leading.
Yep.
But for me, it'll be
that's going down gloriously.
I just don't want to give up on life.
I love how you say jokingly, but we all know in this room that's how it's going to go.
But now with COVID, it's made me realise that how do I impact more people? And it's actually not through leading 10 people across the Kokoda Track at a time. It's standing in front of 110 young men and telling them it's okay to be men and have this discussion. And so, which was a really empowering experience because none of the parents were in the room. So once we closed the doors, I just said, no ego, honest conversation. Like, I really don't care how many of you don't want to be here, don't know why you're here, or an adult's made you come here. And 100 hands out of 110 went up. And they all sort of laughed and went, cool. And I said to them, you're here because your parents think you're part of the problem. Well, they think you are the problem. I'm going to tell you that you're only a part of it. Your parents have got a piece of this as well, and we're going to work with them on top of that. And that was really good. And we just spoke to them. There's a saying that a really good friend of mine who runs a youth program for homeless youth in Toowoomba says, Jen Shaw, and she says, you've got to meet kids where they're at. So don't speak down to them, but meet them where they're at. So she's working with kids in detention. They're sitting in lockup waiting to, you've got no family around, and she's meeting them where they're at. Well, I wanted to meet these boys where they're at, not talk down to them. I'm not better than you. I've just been doing life a little bit longer than you, so I've got some different experiences. What we can tap into with someone like Jaden and my story, I moved out of home at 15, or before I turned 15. I had a very alcoholic, violent father and a big man. He's bigger than me today. He's in his 70s now and he's still bigger than me. Like, he's just a big unit. We grew up in what I would term now, it felt like a prison because our lounge room literally looked like this. He was just always lifting weights in the lounge. He was just a big unit. He's Lebanese Egyptian, so he's just a big guy. And he's one of those guys that can just look at a weight and seems to puff up. Like, he's a big, big boy. And so that was our life. Like, it was just him always lifting, but always angry as well on the other side of it. So I've been through all that stuff, and so then you can sort of, because we're working with at-risk youth right through to, I went and spoke at Churchy at the beginning of this year, one of the biggest schools in Queensland. Kids' problems don't change. Just because there's money involved in their family doesn't mean they're any clearer on their path. We're dealing with, in the last few weeks, 3 15-year-olds that I know of at schools that we've had stuff to do with have suicided. And we don't like to use that word when talking to youth, but they know the word. So just as adults, if we go, let's not use the word, it doesn't mean, they don't know about it. So we're just trying to go upstream and pull these kids out.
Wow.
Because there's a saying that it's easier or more beneficial to build strong youth than to fix broken adults, which is what we do physically. You think about people that you've had come into your gym who've never lifted a weight and they're worried about looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger with no idea the work rate it takes to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. But do you know what I'm saying? You're like, and we all know the physical capacity improves if people move a bit of weight around. We know that. But people are still scared of it. Once you get them in here and you start to see confidence and change, you'll get on any YouTube and Google, you'll see a 70-year-old woman walk into a gym for the first time and 10 years later deadlifting her body weight. It's huge, that stuff. But then you'll have 30-year-olds convincing themselves that I'm past that, or that's not for me, or, So it's just that you can't save everyone, but if we can just save a few people or give them something different to think about, then that's what I'll do. So that's kind of tying back into your question about when will I get back to adventure. I'll always do it. It'll start again next year, hopefully. But after next year, I'll do less of it. And I'll build my team to do more of it. And we want to travel the country and just talk to more and more young people and their parents. So
I think it's just such an important message. Like, I couldn't agree more with this whole toxic masculinity thing, how it's almost gone too far now. It's like, our primal instincts as male, I believe, part of that is aggression.
Yeah.
And aggression in a proper way, in a safe manner, in an environment that's okay, is fine.
But let's be really clear, like, if you have anything to do with domestic violence, men are definitely the perpetrators of that, overwhelmingly so, and I'm not denying that at all. Like, and I've had personal experiences with that, even, very, very close to me and with myself. So I get that, and we're not saying that, but I just think if we can build stronger mindsets around outlets for their, like, there are some people that just shit people. That's just life, right? And that's just what it is. But let's not assume that all blokes are bad because we want to be tough, or we want to fight, or we, as in boxing and MMA and UFC and lift weights, and we want to be big, whatever. You can be whatever you want to be, but you can either be a good version of that or a bad. Yeah. So, and that's the issue I have around calling it toxic masculinity, because it 100%. Makes people scared to voice themselves as men. So now, how do they express themselves? These young guys, it's probably more likely to be in a bad way because they're trying to hide something, because the society's trying to dampen that on them. So it's really tough, and that's just to talk to men's issues. As women's, I've obviously got all their own issues as well, and I've got 3 daughters, so I care a lot about that as well. But for me, I want to be a different role model than what my old man was.
Yeah, absolutely.
So those experiences can either break you or they can make you better.
It's
like everyone.
Pretty good to go back next year and redo that talk and have the same 100 kids, or maybe not all 100.
Well, we're going to start running camps with them. Oh. So the next side of this is to run camps where we're going to take them away on a Friday, bring them back on a Sunday.
Wow.
Not just for athletic kids. I don't care if they're musical or they're academic. We want all kids to come in. And so I'll take that back a step. When I worked with the Dolphins, I ran a boot camp, and the Dolphins wanted me to run a military-style boot camp and just pump these young athletes over. The problem I have with that is they're athletes. If you put an athlete in that position, they just go into the locker. They can do that. They know they can last the 18 hours. They probably don't get a lot out of it because they've already pretty mentally strong. They're already pushed themselves physically. So what I want to do is put in all these mindset pieces, teaching them how to communicate better, teaching them that they're actually quite fortunate to have the physical capacity to do what they do, because my son doesn't. And he's at school. When he was at school at the time, there was 133 other kids at that school, and he's one of the better ones. Some of these kids are fully disabled in wheelchairs. They don't have the physical capacity to do what these young footy players are doing. So I said to him really early, you don't have to do this. You don't have to be here. You get to do it. It's a different mindset. And the fact that you're more talented than a lot of other kids who would love to be in this role, that seemed to land with him. So we did all these mindset pieces. The coach came back to me and said, mate, I don't know what you did, because they weren't there, the coaching staff. We had these young fellas for 18 hours. He said, I don't know what you did. They had no sleep. I think we gave them 2 hours sleep through the night. We started in Brisbane and we ended up on the sunny coast. We climbed Gun at midnight. We did all these things, but there was a reason behind everything. But he said, I don't know what you did, but the chat between the boys has been phenomenal. I said, I put in all the mindset pieces, because he initially didn't want those, because I think they were vital. Well, now we want to run the same sort of thing for young men. And I don't like calling them boys. I think at 13, you're a young man these days. I've got my youngest daughter's 13. They're becoming adults, and you need to treat them as adults. And so, so that they can learn to be adults. If we don't give them that opportunity, by the time they're 16, 18, they're frustrated, and they act out because they're trying to assert their manhood or their adulthood, in the girls' cases, on the world that's trying to hold them back. So that's what I'm doing a lot around. So we're doing camps. Our first one's going to come up this school holidays. We're going to give it our first run. I've got a few of the boys that work with me, but better than doing that is we've got businesses already asking to sponsor kids to go on it, because I want kids who can afford to go, but I also want kids who can't afford to go. Yeah. And I want to put them together, because there's going to be no difference. And just all the same stuff, mindset stuff. So if it's something physical, the athletic kids, it's going to be their wheelhouse. Yep. But then there'll also be mindset stuff where I'm now looking at the academic kid in my team. I'm going to try and give them opportunities where they're all going to have a strength. Yep. So if it's something really, like when we do dog squat, if we do stuff that's got a lot of lifting and the bigger boys get in and help, but then if there's a lot of cardio, they look straight to the smaller frame people who like running, and you tactically work out, how is this workout going to go? Well, I want the whole weekend to be like that, so that they can learn strength. So when we went and spoke at Wavell State High, Jaden and I, which is his school.
His old school.
So we went up to Wavell and we spoke to them, to all of their rugby league teams. And one of the things I talked to them about, because I want to get rid of this idea of toxic masculinity, but I said to them, as rugby league players, and they're in the first team, so they're the man when they walk around the school campus like the man. I said to them, that comes with a heavy responsibility, though. In my opinion, you're not really alpha, or you're not a true leader if you use that power to put other people down, to not defend the weak, because that's my military background. So if you're bullying a kid that you view as nerdy, or then to me, you're not really living into the power of being a true leader. So we just talked them through that, so that if you see you've got this power, you are followed while you're at this school, that if you see something happening that's not cool, you can actually stop it and other people will listen. Because as a big physical young man, we got a young fella trained in our gym today. He's 15 years old and he looks like he's 25.
Jesus.
Like, these are big boys.
I had a teaching prac at Wavell State High.
Yeah.
I was 19, and those kids in grade 12, man, they towered over me. I was like, if you guys got in a fight, I ain't doing shit because I'm going to get knocked out.
That's what it's like.
It's fucked.
That's what it's like.
Especially because, like, Wavell State High is a school of excellence in rugby league.
Yeah.
They are big boys.
See, what I want to teach them is that we can use our physical ability not to be, being scared of being this toxic masculinity thing, but you can use it for good. And there are kids that are smarter than you that somewhere along the line are going to be able to do good for you as well. So everything there's checks and balances in life. We've all got strengths, we've all got weaknesses. Don't assume that one of those is better than the other. So, I'd imagine the kids who get bullied all through school at some point probably become our bosses, and then that pays us back. Yeah. So what if we had a better relationship with that? I don't know. You
might need them.
I'm sure a lot of politicians are frustrated people that were bullied at school. I don't know. It's a chance to pay you back.
That's a new tax.
Damn. And you said you've done some boxing before as well?
Yeah, so I trained as an amateur and as a professional. I fought as an amateur and professional. I trained amateurs and professionals. My daughter was an Australian champion before she climbed Everest as an amateur, which I think boxing.
Of course she was.
Well, I think
Shout
boxing gives you really good mental strength, right?
100%.
Yeah, and you've got to go to places in a boxing ring. It's not really a sport to the extent of, like, there's an old saying in boxing that you play football and you play soccer, but you don't play boxing, or UFC. It's a fight, and it's very primal, it's very physical. But and there are a lot of female fighters in this day and age. They're going to the Olympics now. It's a different world, right? So from that point of view, I think it gave her a lot of strength for her climbing mountainside. I do corporate boxing, so I train people like I'm training fighters, and we get in and spar, and as they slowly improve, because I still get in and spar, I'll punch them in the face a little bit harder. I'll work to their level or just above. I think they carry it into their workplace again because it gives them a bit of that realisation that it's a masculine release for the blokes that they haven't had. Like I've met blokes who've never been in a fight. Now, I'm not advocating we should all go and get in fights, but there's another saying in the fight game that how much can you really know about yourself if you've never been in a fight? So in a physical fight, obviously, you learn a lot about yourself. Say in business, when you're struggling and you've been on the breadline, sometimes you don't know if you can keep your business open. That's a fight. We have the ability to, right now, during the middle of COVID, our landlord hasn't been great to deal with. We're in a fight. And when I was in the military, I've been in situations where we're in a fight. And so you have this ability to dig in. Like now what's happening with COVID has been, like 87% of our income disappeared overnight. We lost $600,000 in April and May. And I don't normally talk figures much, but that hurts. And we were really struggling. I was 17 years in the army, 10 years working in my own business. I'm a workaholic. I work hard, and all of a sudden I was on JobKeeper. Mentally, that's pretty tough. I'm not going to lie. But it didn't affect me to the extent it affected other people because I've tested myself resilience-wise all my life. I've been to places, I know I don't give up. That's not in my nature. So from that point of view, all the soldiers that I've been dealing with, and I deal with quite a few still, they're pretty relaxed about it all. They're kind of like, yeah, it is what it is. Once the dust settles, then we'll sort it out at the other end. So, yes, that's the boxing background. I don't really train fighters now. I'm just doing some corporate stuff. I just ran a fight camp, and we had all these women who said that we want to do it. And I'm talking like middle-aged women, my age, in their 40s, they go, but we won't spar. We're like, because on Saturdays I let them spar. By week 4, they're all getting in and punching the crap out of each other. I'm saying to these guys, just lighten up a little bit. Like it's not a fight. We're just learning.
So
railing each other.
Yeah, like anything, once people get confidence in something, they'll have a crack at it. I love the fight game.
That's insane. Like, I love how you do a lot.
Yeah.
But it all ties into this in building a better human and everything. And I love that you talk about your physical side, your mental side, but the challenge side as well. Like the adventures, putting people outside of their comfort zone to grow and experience all these things. Where did that begin for you? Was it in the army? Was it before the army? I think it was in the army, but I don't think I realised it. So like most things in life, you look back and you go, okay, hindsight's great.
Yeah, that makes sense to me now. And I always use an example of Steve Jobs saying once that you can't connect the dots going forward, you can only connect them going backwards. And where he got and that's part of it. People use that quote all the time, but the broader sense of where that came from was, he starts Apple, obviously. He ends up on the board, and he's got shareholders, and it's the company grows into a sizable company. At some point, the board doesn't like his direction, and they get rid of him. For people that don't know his full story, they get rid. Now, he still owns a part of the company, but the board can still remove him. So he goes away. He's still making millions of dollars, so it's not a monetary issue. And he's pretty annoyed because this is my company. I started it. But what he does do with a lot of the money that he's got is he invests in 2 other companies. I can't remember one of them, but the second one was Pixar, that made Toy Story. Yeah. And he says going forward now, when he then came back in and had to save Apple when it was struggling, it was through working with the guys, these creatives at Pixar, that made him realise what the iPhone could be. That was before the iPod had existed. It was before the iPhone had existed. So had he not been sacked essentially from his own board and then got angry and went and financed some other people and got around these creatives, the iPhone would never have existed. Well, that same thing happened to me. I broke my leg. I was really adamantly not wanting to go across and be a medic. I hated the idea. But in hindsight, becoming a medic then allowed me to go and do some really cool things. I had a longer career than a lot of my mates who stayed in infantry. It's a short career sometimes. I then fell into this adventure business, and I look at all these milestones, and some of them I resisted along the way. They're not what I wanted. And yet here I am doing something that I absolutely love. So then I started to understand experiences I went through in war-torn countries, in places that, well, one, you saw people way worse off than we are. Yeah. Oh, and I've had some experiences. I went to this place called Bougainville in the North Solomons.
Sorry, it was actually called Bougainville.
It's called Bougainville. It's a part of the North Solomon Islands, but it's owned by PNG, and they've been at war. They've been at civil war. And when we went over there in 98, they've been at civil war for 25 years. There was literally no infrastructure in this country. It was burnt to the ground, and they've been fighting each other forever. So we go in, and we run what we call a peace monitoring group. It ran for years, but I was there for like 8 months. So we were the only medical facility on the whole island. So I had this one woman who walked like 40 Ks, 38, 39 weeks pregnant with a broken foot. And that's why she came to see us about her foot, not about the pregnancy. And she walked 40 Ks to us. But, you know, she didn't have any other option. I had a guy that rowed a boat 5 hours with a collapsed lung because he got in a fight with his brother, got stabbed, his lung collapsed. So he rows a boat and he gets to us because he knows...
Rowed, like, I thought you said rowed. Like,
no, rowed.
Wow.
Like, no, he's rowing through the water
with a collapsed
in this
lung.
boat with a collapsed lung for 5 hours to get to us. And one of my young soldiers said to me, like, how could he do that? And I said, well, his other option was to die. And when we're faced with that option, we'll try. Now, how many of those cases didn't make it to us, we don't know. Because if he had died out in the water somewhere, we never would have known. But the point is that the ability for us as humans to endure pain is incredible. And again, I tie everything back to this personal development. The physical pain you put yourself through in here is what gives you the growth. Even on the days where I say to people, if you don't feel good, still come in, because a bad workout is better than no workout. You don't have to be given 100% all the time. Give 100% of what you've got, because that's how we grow. And there's another saying that if it can be endured, endure it. That's what you should do. So this guy rows a boat 5 hours, gets to us, and we fix him. I had a guy that
back.
What? I don't know. He went home, actually. We had choppers. We might have flown him home. I don't remember. I had a guy that over there that got shot 3 times with an M16. You know, and he got 2 units of blood put into him out of me, because we do live blood transfusions in the field, and I matched him, so I gave him 2 units of my blood. So that's a whole litre. It knocked me around for weeks. But it's
straight out of your body into his.
You just tap it straight out. It goes into a bag still, and then gets fed straight back in. That's what you do. That's live blood transfusions. You have to, because we don't have a blood bank with us. We don't have access.
Just 2 of us floating around.
But this guy was on Panadol for his anaesthetic post-operation, because they've never had pain relief. So we're giving them Panadol after being shot 3 times. We're giving women who've had caesareans Panadol after giving birth, because they've never had pain relief before. So again, the human body can endure almost anything. So I learn all these lessons about personal development through experiencing people way tougher than me go through amazing things, and you think, how is that possible? But it's possible. Wow. So then now I'm at an age of life where I go, almost everything is possible. Like, I truly believe that, if you're willing to dedicate the time to it. Like, you know, me getting a golf club doesn't turn me into Tiger Woods. Me doing the 18 hours a day that Tiger Woods does from the age of 4 probably does. Me lifting weights doesn't make me Arnold Schwarzenegger. Go onto the same juicing program, which he was on as a young man, and the work ethic that he had, you could probably do it. But most of us look at the end result of someone and not what they went through to get there. What interests me is the journey they went through to get there.
We only see people at the finish line in their glory and everything, but we
Yeah,
don't see
that's right.
everything
We imagine the mountaintop experience. We imagine opening the doors of our business and everyone flooding us. We imagine best case scenarios, and then when anything below that becomes failure to us, and we think.
And then as soon as we're hit with that first big resistance, it's like, oh, I'm out.
Yeah, and when Alyssa wanted to climb Everest, I got every book and every DVD I could find at the time. That was before streaming, of everything that's ever gone wrong on Everest, which is really easy because that's what they write about. They write about the drama, and the reason I did that was I say if you can deal with that, then you can deal with the other stuff. Now, what's the worst case scenario for a teenage girl trying to climb Everest? It's not death. It's losing your nose. People lose their noses from frostbite, their fingers, their toes. Like physical disfigurement for a teenage girl or a young woman, that's worse than death, I would imagine, because our looks matter in this current day and age. So I wanted her to understand worst case scenarios before she worried about best case scenarios.
Yep.
And it's
that
the
didn't
same.
phase her a bit.
Well, at least it made her know, well, on the days where I don't feel like training, I'm probably going to do the training, you know, and put them into
That's just like that comes back to that saying, you know, always hope for the best but prepare for the worst.
Yeah.
Because you need before going to any venture, you need to know what could go wrong.
Yeah, like we plan
doesn't
for
mean-
stuff, but Mike Tyson's famous for saying that everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. So, and the army's the same. We all have a plan until we contact the enemy. The enemy has the exact opposite plan to us.
Yep.
So our plan lasts until contact, and then after that, we've got to become very adaptable. And you can only do that through training. But where personal development actually started for me was in Bougainville. No internet. So this is pre-internet days, of course, 98, pre-everyone having personal computers, let alone phones.
Yeah.
And so I knew I was on a long deployment. Mail was taking about 6 weeks to get to us. Nelson Mandela's book had just come out, The Long Road to Freedom. He'd just been released after 27 years in jail. So I get the book because I think it's a big book and I've got time to read it. I could not put it down. And that was the first moment I remember understanding that what goes on inside our heads can change everything. And what got me out of that was after 27 years locked in prison, when he got out, he had a lot of power. He wasn't the president yet, but he had a lot of power. There was a lot of groundswell behind him. In the first 2 weeks that he got out, he went and met with every prison guard that treated him poorly, every politician that kept him locked up and that fought him the whole way, and he had meals with them. He had lunches and dinners with all of these people. And I remember thinking, how can you do that? Like, I would want to exact revenge on these people.
Yeah.
And in that book, he said, if I had gone out and used my power to exact revenge, I may as well stayed locked up because they still had control of me. That mindset was a massive shift for me to go, wow, because I couldn't do that. After 27 years in jail.
That's a
want my
fucking
piece.
level of human being that I've never heard of.
Yeah, and that was when I started to go, because I'd grown up tough and I'd had some bad things happen. So when I joined the army, I was an angry young man, and I wanted to fight everyone over everything all the time. And the army gives you the avenue to do that. They like those sort of people. And then I started to go, well, hang on, I don't have to be angry at the world. You can still be tough. I can still stand up and fight if I had to, but I don't have to fight the world all the time. I don't have to walk into every room trying to own it. I don't have to look, which is what I used to be like. You're straight away looking for who's a tough guy here. Let's sort that out early, and then I can get on with who's in control here. Now I can just walk, and I had this fear that if I wasn't this tough guy, do I have the ability to protect my family or to be a soldier but now I've learnt that truly tough men or people in general have the ability to tap into that when needed, but I don't have to walk around dominating everyone all the time. That's what I learned. And I learned it really from that book. I'm a slow learner. It took me 10 years to really get it. It sent me on a journey. Only around the age of I went through a divorce, which was really tough in my late 30s. So I was still on this journey myself, and I'm still going through stuff. Only in 42 to 45, I went through some things. And then really from about 43 to 48, which is where I'm at now, I've had this massive shift in everything. Like, there is nothing that you could do or say to me that would make me feel less confident about myself, because your opinion doesn't matter that much to me. I'm not that tapped into it. Like, we all care what people think to an extent, but I've built myself now to a point where you think I'm a dick, cool. You know,
You've got that
great chat, and off we go.
You know what your purpose is.
So what I want to do is impart that on
Yeah.
other people. And I want to start with these, with young men at the moment and young women when we start working with them as well, because I think that's really important. So.
Fuck. That's an incredible purpose to have.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I'm surrounded by young lions, I say to people. So the guys and girls around me hold me at a standard. So the guys that I've employed at my gym, because I employ all my trainers full time, because they're not just trainers. They do the talks and they can come on adventures. They can do everything.
That's fucking awesome.
And we started our own podcast as a COVID project called Bro Chat, which is literally just the four of us sitting around having a chat. Now there's two 23-year-old, one's just turned 24, so 23, 24, 29, and then me. And we talk about anything and everything. And it's not a bro chat as in we're talking about beers and cars and girls. It's like we talked about suicide topics last week because that's what came up.
Cool.
We occasionally interview people, but that's not really our main thing at this point in time. It's just us having a chat. Two of the boys have got Polynesian background, so we've had a massive reach out from the Polynesian community, particularly the women, saying our men don't talk about this stuff. Now these are still tough men, like these are fit, hard, strong men. Jaden's still playing rugby league, and there's a good chance he could end up back in the NRL, next year if all goes well, and if he stays injury free. There's some things on the fringe for him. The other two boys are both fighters, both physical specimens. One just got out of the army after 7 years. Like they're all ripped up, they're all trained hard, but they're good people. And then again, we're trying to highlight that you can be a man and still be a good person, and Bro Chat's allowed that to happen. So there's all these ways that it's not me, whereas everything else I did was me. Now it's about who can I lift up with me. Once upon a time, if you didn't agree with me, I'll just cut you away, done, don't need to deal with you. But now I think, well, if we can take a few people on the journey with us, that's got to be better long term. Like everyone talks about leaving a legacy, but most of us, if we look at legacy on a Steve Jobs or that sort of, most of us aren't going to do that. Yeah. But we all leave a legacy within our inner circle. That's whether it's your kids or your partner or the people around you. And I'll be really honest, like in the last 20 years, I don't think I would have been a good person to be a partner with. So whilst I've had relationships that didn't work out, and at that time I would have blamed the women, now I look at it and go, I was a massive part of that myself because I hadn't sorted myself out. I'm hoping to try and help men sort that stuff out younger and still be men, but still go, it's cool to also have emotions and it's not feel great sometimes, and be willing to talk about that, and then let's move on. I get young guys now in their 20s reach out to me regularly about relationship breakups, around things they're struggling with. I wouldn't have done that at their age. I would have been too much of a man to do that. And now I realise I was actually less of a man for not being willing to do that. And I'm really thankful for the journey I've ended up on, because I've made a lot of wrong turns, but I've obviously made a lot of right turns to be mostly wake up every day pretty happy with life. We all have our days, right? And when COVID hit and when they closed our gym for months, and when there was no venture business is still closed and there was no income, it was stressful. I've got a couple of really good business partners who have been very helpful, but otherwise it was bloody stressful. What helped me was I was surrounded by really good people. And that's not an accident. You surround yourself with good people on purpose. Eventually you'll build an energy around yourself where the people that aren't the right fit for you will just push themselves away. It's in a business, it's in anything. It's clients that you attract into this gym. You'll find in your own setups, you'll attract the right sort of people by the vibe in the gym, and people that aren't the right fit for you. And I say this for any business, they will self-select out as a rule. But if you allow cancers to come in, of course they'll grow.
I think the hardest thing as a business owner is to learn that that's okay. You can lose a client. Like I remember when I first lost my first client, I was like,
It's devastating.
Fuck, what have I done? Yeah, it is.
It smashes your ego.
And then you realise, like, oh,
What do you mean you're not coming back?
hindsight.
What do you mean I'm not the best person ever to do this?
You seeing someone else?
It is like a relationship. Who's that comedian, Kinney, or whatever they call him, Troy? You ever seen him? There's one where there's this mad text message, and it looks like it's coming from a partner, but it's really his personal trainer trying to work out why he's broken up with him. Starts stalking him, turns up at pubs that he's at because he's checked in on Facebook.
I see you're at another gym now. I thought it was me.
When you said surrounded by lions, I thought you meant us two, but I was like,
It's the beards.
I could be called a lion.
But that's what you want, right? You want to be surrounded by people that lift you to a higher standard. I want people that make me go, instead of me, like, so even 5 years ago and 10 years ago, I had to be the guy. My ego was big enough that I had to be the man, and I wanted people to look at me as the man. And interestingly, I'm sure less people looked at you as the man as a result of that. But now I want to walk in and go, if my standard's not good enough, the blokes under me who are starting to come up, I'll be found out. So then everyone's standard lifts. And the other thing we've got really good with my group is we can have honest conversations without people getting all sooky about it. Like we can have a robust conversation. Go, mate, that's not good enough. Why has that happened? And the boys will go, yeah, actually, you're right. And then they'll fix it. So, and I'm the same. Like if I know if I'm doing something, I can do what I want because I'm the boss. But I also know that, well, is that really the standard? And then if the boys start doing that, is that okay? Well, no. And you start, I'll still go in and mop my own floors and do stuff like, you do the work. You don't ever get above that. So, and COVID's taught me not to chase money. Not that I ever really did, but your ego gets to the stage where you're doing 10 Kokodas a year. So last year was 10 Kokodas, Mount Kilimanjaro, Mount Elbrus in Russia, one or two Yukon dog sledding trips, and then 5 trips to what we call the Aussie 10 Peaks. All that in a year. There was a 3-month period where I spent 12 days in Australia total.
Wow.
You know, now that sounds really exciting. People go, "You're a weapon, that's amazing." But I've got kids.
Yeah.
So I wasn't seeing them. So you're not really hitting. One of my core values is to want to be a good dad. And when I went through a divorce, I didn't feel like I was a good dad. I really beat myself up over that for a period of time. And then I realised, okay, the relationship didn't work out, but you can still be a good dad. And so now I've started to go with COVID. I've got a lot more time at home with the kids.
That's got to be unreal.
Because obviously they live with their mum and that as well, but we get a lot of time together. We've got a good relationship to the point where, you know, either of us can have the kids whenever we want. We spend a lot of time with them. I've enjoyed that more, but I'm still. I don't sleep a lot. I'll go to the gym really early in the morning. Now I've started to take 1 or 2 days here and there off, and I'll be home with the kids. And yeah, so I've learned to reset myself. And
Yep.
one thing I can tell anyone that's on any journey of life is that what's important to you at 20 and what's important to you at 30 is going to be different to what's important to you at 40 and 50. And I think you need to embrace that. One of the first things I do with clients that I work with is go through a value system. And it's I should put you boys through it one day. You'd find it interesting.
Love to.
Most people don't actually know what their values are. So if I ask you to write, well, what's your values? We throw a few: honesty and integrity and family and health, and we don't really know. I've got a series of cards made that have 150 different values on them. Like, who knew there were that many? And there's a process that I put you through in less than 20 minutes that'll take you through all of them. And you go, oh, wow, that actually makes sense now, some of the things I do, because now I've got a better understanding of my values. Now, if I did those values with you today and I did them in 5 years' time or even in 2 years' time, they'll be totally different. Not in 6 months' time, they might be a little bit different, not totally, but it depends where you're at. If your business is struggling, if you've just gone through a relationship breakup, your values change a little bit because your world's been rocked. But what a lot of us do is, in my experience at my age, nearly 50, at 40 to 50, we're trying to hold on to what was important to us at 20 or 25 or what our family taught us was important, and it just might not be that important anymore. So to me, having a massive ego and being the man in the adventure space and growing a multi-million-dollar business, that was, I had to be that guy. But you can't physically be everywhere. And now I'm kind of like, I take pride in the guys underneath me getting people saying to them, "You're amazing, I love working with that guy," or "His mindset's great," because I helped develop that. I don't take all the credit for it, but I helped develop it. I like that. That's equally as important now.
That's fucking sick, man. I love that.
What's training like for you, bro? What do you get up to for yourself?
Do you ever sleep? Is another question.
Like, when's the sleep?
I'm the worst for sleeping, and that's one of my negatives, is I don't sleep anywhere near enough. Like, I'll get up nearly like clockwork. I'll wake up at 2 or 2:30 in the morning, and I generally get out of bed then, and I start doing stuff. So it's ridiculous.
2:30?
Yeah, I know.
2?
I know.
When are you going to bed?
Is that even a time? I don't think I've ever seen that
Well,
time.
most people are coming home that time, right? Do any of you guys follow Jocko Willing?
Yeah.
So he's an ex-commando, Navy SEAL or whatever, and he's a unit. But he'll always take a photo of his watch at 4:30, and then he'll post it on Instagram every single day, and that's his grind. And I remember looking at that thinking, oh, that's cute, he's had a sleep in.
Yeah.
I probably would say it to his face, but
Everyone needs to share this episode and just tag Jocko so we get the call out.
But it's like, what I've learned is that I've got a certain work period that's best for me, and it's generally between 2:30 and 10 a.m. So I try and get all of my important work done in that time. Now, I know not everyone can do that, but whatever your work time is. Years ago, it was late at night. It was kind of that 9 o'clock through till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. That was the time for me back then. It's changed a little bit, so I try and be really productive. I try and do the administrative type work, right? Anything that I have to sit in front of a computer, which isn't my skill set, I'll get bored really easily. I try and do that in that time frame before the phones are going. And so that's what works for me at the moment. But I try and train every day. But I'm at an age where, and I hate using age as an excuse, but I've had a lot of injuries. So I prolapsed 2 discs in my back when I was in East Timor in '99, and it still plays up today. Like, really plays up. So, like, and I've got mates in the physical industry, obviously, as well, and strength and conditioning coaches are saying you should deadlift, obviously. I hate deadlifting because the amount of times I've hurt my back doing it. And I get that it's a technique thing, but I definitely have a weakness there. So I do it, but I never go for 1 RMs or that's... I
know a guy that could help.
It just kills me. Like, so I don't do that, but I do it. I still lift. I do a lot of boxing still. I try and train every day. I've torn both of my biceps, so neither of my biceps are connected.
Really?
Yeah. So I tore my left one. Well, because I never grew up. And I'm a
I
bloke.
like that answer.
Yeah. So at 40 years of age, I'm still sparring professional fighters.
Yeah, good.
Younger than me, faster than me, but I've got enough ability and experience to get away with a lot of stuff.
And you don't want to win.
Yeah, so I can get in and box him, and I just hit this guy's elbow. I was just throwing a hook or something, caught his elbow, and it went straight away. I didn't know what it was. It was this immense amount of pain. So I did what any fighter would do, and I did 3 more rounds.
No, good.
Without the ability to throw a straight left hand.
I have to introduce
That's
you to
good.
someone.
I'll have to
You guys
show
are going to have a
someday.
field day talking about this shit.
Well, then I just strapped it up for 6 weeks. It went black, and I never went and saw anyone. I just kept working at my gym. I had a gym in Toowoomba at the time, and then this orthopaedic surgeon came in and he said, "Mate, I reckon you've done this," and I didn't get it checked out. But then. So what am I, 48 now? So maybe 4 years ago, I was sparring a guy at a gym in Brisbane here, and this one went, and I knew what it was straight away, and I stopped straight away.
That's
Well, you
learning
learned
from your
something.
mistakes.
That's called
There
learning.
you go.
So there was 30 seconds left in the round, so I just held my arm to my body, and I just kind of held it and just worked around him for 30 seconds, and then
You
tell
didn't
him.
even.
Oh, you
But
didn't
once-
stop straight away.
But once the round ended, I said to him, "Mate, I'm out." And he was like, "Oh, you were shocked," and it went black. But I didn't go and get it checked out. So then I'm training with a friend of mine, and we're
The
doing...
story gets better.
Like, I never said I was the sharpest tool in the shed. So at, maybe 8 weeks later, I'm training, and I'm swinging like 28 kilo kettlebells, single arm snatches are okay still, up to 32, but my elbow is constantly hurting. So I just said to this girl I was training with, I might just go and get it checked out just to see that I'm not going to snap something, because it just didn't feel stable. And my doctor sent me to this guy, I can't remember his name, but he's a surgeon. And when I went in there, this is the guy that does all the lines and all the Broncos. So straight away, my mind's going to money. Now, this guy's going to cost me a fortune. But so I go in there, I'm looking at all the athletes he's worked with, and he's a former basketballer. I cannot remember his name. I feel like it might be Marchant or something. Anyway, he's a big guy, like 6'6". But at the very top of his wall of all these photos is a stick that's been carved on the Kokoda Track, and it looks very similar to my boys, what they carve. Like very similar, you kind of know your boys. And when I went in there, I asked him, and he'd trekked Kokoda with another guy years ago that was using some of my boys. And so we got talking about that. Anyway, he looked at my arms and he said, "Mate, I can't do anything with the left one. It's too far gone. You've let it go that long." And the right one, he said, I could take strands out of your hamstring, and we're a 50-50 chance of fixing it, because, again, I'd left it too long. But if it's not causing you any pain, or it does cause me pain, but if it's not causing any other problem, you're going to get away with it being as it is. So there are certain things I can't do. But I said to him, I was just worried that when I'm swinging kettlebells overhead, that something's going to snap. He said, "No, that's happened. That horse is
already
bolted.
snapped."
It's not going to get any worse." So now, yeah, it just is what it is. So I've got like a half a bicep, and then it just cuts straight in.
That's insane.
And what happens is that...
And they're noticeable too.
Yeah, and my tendon in there is like a rock. Like, you can feel
Yeah,
the tendon, because it's doing all the work. Like, it's just...
That's just
tendon.
copping all. Yeah.
So-
You develop good tendons.
So what I've learned to do is just still physically do something every day, but I'm not an athlete. I'm not trying to have a six-pack. I gave up on that stuff a long time ago, and I don't really care about it. I like to be able to physically, if I've got I'm going to Kilimanjaro or something, then I know I want to go and train for that. I know that I can go on a 4 or 6 week program and do anything. I know, and this is not to bag anyone out, but particularly when CrossFit first started, and I had a CrossFit coach in my old gym, and we had a CrossFit, which I loved because it introduced Olympic lifting, which I'd never looked at before. It was because as young fighters, you don't touch weights. There was a real taboo. It's going to make you slow. That's obviously changed now, but back then, fighters never touched weights. We just did everything body weighted. So this guy came in and taught all the CrossFit stuff, which was interesting for us, but they called it functional fitness. And if CrossFit does it, it's functional fitness. Everything else is wrong. That was my opinion when I was working with them early. That was in the early days where you had to post your workout. You had to make jokes about doing a snatch. That was what everyone did in CrossFit back in those days, when everyone was drinking the Kool-Aid. And I think CrossFit's done a lot of good for the fitness community. Absolutely. Got a lot of women into lifting who were scared of it previously. So I'm not bagging it out. But they talked about functional fitness. And I thought, functional fitness to me is, if I want to go and climb a mountain or cross a Kokoda Track, do I have the physical capacity to do it? So either of you boys could go and do an endurance event by altering your training, because your body already knows how to train. Yes, it might be totally different to what you're currently doing, but we have a physical capacity to just up our game in one area or change something and then go and do something. Well, to me, functional fitness is, can my body do what I'm asking it to do? So in this case, it might be climbing Mount Everest or crossing the Kokoda Track. That's functional fitness to me. I can carry a backpack. I know in the army, in hindsight, where like people do Kokoda and carry like a 20 kilo backpack, and it's a lot. Feels quite heavy. in the army, we never carried anything under 45 kilos. But you never thought about it. No one was weighing backpacks. It's just what you either want the gear or you don't. You know, do you want your food, your ammunition, and your spare clothes? Yeah, I probably do. So you carry it. Like, and as long as you have the physical, that's functional fitness to me. So now I just try and be functionally fit. I go and we bushwalk most weekends when we can. Once a month, we'll lead a group of people out somewhere on a local sort of hike and just get people out into nature. That's fitness for me. But I try and do something at some level every day.
Yes.
Sometimes twice a day, but I don't have a plan. I don't train any great fitness plan. I just kind of do what I feel like doing at the moment. And I'm happy with that, to be honest. You know, I've got less anal about all of that stuff. And I've got less, you know, you've probably been through it too, but I know 10 years ago for me, there were black and white ways of doing things. So, and my way was the right way and everyone else's way was the wrong way. Hopefully the fitness industry has grown up enough to go, it's all the right way if people are moving, if it's the right way for them. To me, exercise is about what are you willing to commit to on a consistent basis. Because if I try and give you something you're not going to commit to on a consistent basis, you're wasting your time. Find something you enjoy that you're happy to do more often than not. Now, I get that not everyone enjoys exercise, but we want to create an environment, certainly in our gym at least, where they enjoy the experience still. And yeah, it's going to be hard, but I like coming in here. So basically, we run a strength and conditioning program, I guess, more conditioning than strength, but we do 2 strength days. For want of a better word, it is run off a CrossFit style system. We just don't do we don't do snatches, for example, just because I don't think the general human needs to be doing snatches as a rule, like your everyday athlete. You know, I think people got confused with CrossFit between the sport of CrossFit and physical training of CrossFit, and they're very different things. So we do all your deadlifts, your bench presses, all your basic stuff. It's certainly nothing like powerlifting, but all the basic sort of stuff. And then we do a lot of kettlebells, a lot of boxing, a lot of boot campy style things, because that's my background: army, boxing. You know, and just stick to what we know and what we enjoy.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So what's training for like a trip up Everest or K2 or Kilimanjaro look like?
So that's
groups. What do you do with that? What is that like?
Well, that's an interesting one. So for climbing Everest itself, people think there must be some space age program where you've got to wear a mask, you know, to
the altitude mask.
Yeah, you wear the altitude mask.
The old Bane
like,
mask.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and people love that stuff, and the photos look good, and the whatever.
Good for Instagram.
And there are some psychological benefits to those masks, believe it or not. Even though we all know there's no physiological benefit, maybe it makes your diaphragm stronger. I don't know, but there's a psychological benefit to not being able to breathe, because when you're up at altitude, particularly when you get past a base camp, it does feel like that at times, like you just can't breathe, and you've got to slow everything down. You actually got to slow your thought processes down to focus on your breathing. So yes, that's a feeling that you get with a mask. The difference is when you're at altitude, you can't take the mask off and get an air, lungful. So you can't. So that's the only benefit it truly has. We know it has no physiological benefit to, and even working at altitude only lasts for up to 2 weeks. So you can't mimic altitude, but so a lot of people try and do fancy stuff, but we just do real basic training. So we'll do 2 gym-based sessions a week, because people, when they're training for trekking, they think they just got to get out and get walking, which is definitely a huge part of it. But they forget that you're still this physical capacity, like upper body, for example. We'll do upper body stuff and people go, why? Shouldn't I just be doing legs? Yeah, but you've got to carry a backpack. And when you start to not have the capacity to hold your form carrying a backpack, and everything just starts to collapse down, your breathing's not as good, your back starts to give you trouble. So I think you've still got to train your whole body. We like to do 2 gym-based sessions a week and 2 loaded pack sessions a week. But what I'll generally do is I'll say to people, show me what you're doing. So say one of your guys who are training here come and say, right, this is my workload over 5 or 6 sessions a week. This is what I'm doing. I would then look at that and go, add in 1 backpack session. That's it. Don't change their entire program. Because if we give people an entire program and say they're a triathlete, all right, you're going to need some muscle work, definitely. Your cardio is going to be fine. If you're just doing strength, all right, we're going to need to do a little bit of cardio work just to get used to that. But I don't want to change your whole program. But what I find is people are doing a program 5 or 6 days a week, then they get hours and they try and overlay it on top. And it's too much. Because if less is more, how much more would more be?
Exactly. More is more. We have a saying here that more is always the right amount of more.
Yeah, so that's all we do. We run a 12-week program that we send out to people, and it's really well written by sports scientists years ago. And I say to people, take this to your training, because you might not fully understand the why you're doing what you're doing. You know, when it's like in a resistance style program, particularly years ago, you write a program for someone and then there's an exercise they cut out because they don't like it. And where do they get the other exercise from? If they're not working under a trainer, they look at the guy in the gym who's got the biggest biceps and assume he must know the most, and so they start doing an exercise. But it could be a totally different exercise. So I say, take this to your trainer who will know how to read this and understand why we're doing what we're doing, and then get him to adjust whatever program you're doing. It's a program that either of you guys could read and go, okay, I can see what they're trying to do, so I can help. This is what I would change for you for the next 12 weeks to get you ready for Kokoda. That's literally all it needs to be, 12 weeks. I can take people from sitting in an office, overweight, not exercising, to ready for Kokoda in 12 weeks. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be easy or enjoyable, but it's doable. So if they're already physically moving, it's easy to then overlay. For any good trainer should be able to go, okay, I can see what they're trying to do here. We're going to pick up 1 or 2 of those sessions a week. We're going to drop back 1 of these a week just for the next 12 weeks. Are you going to lose some gains? Absolutely. But your result for 12 weeks' time is different. And then after that, we get the gains back.
Yeah. So how far is that trek?
They say 96 Ks.
Yep.
I feel like they've put a bit of string on a map because I don't think it takes into account the ups and downs. GPS over there isn't good enough yet to fully map it. People have tried, and your watches drop out all the time and then draw a straight line between the last point and you. So my gut feel with all the trekking I've done around the world is probably about 115, 120.
Yep.
Yeah,
split over a few days.
Yeah, so we do it over 8 days, which is very achievable for most people. When Alyssa was 8, we did it over 8 days. I took this bloke years ago to Kokoda called Damien Tomlinson, and he's an ex-Special Forces soldier that lost both of his legs in Afghanistan, one from the bum and one from the knee. And he crossed the track in the same amount of days using one leg because his full leg wouldn't work and a set of crutches. There were occasions where we had to carry him. Of course, there were bits where you just couldn't get him across on his own, but he still did that in 8 days. Now, you and I would get up at 5, start walking at 6 before it gets too hot, and be finished by anywhere from 2 to 4 in the afternoon. For him, we were getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning and getting in at 9 o'clock at night. They were big days.
Wow.
But he did it. And it was 2 years post-bomb blast. 2 years after becoming from an elite, one of Australia's best soldiers, to being fully disabled overnight, like in a split instant, and then 2 years later he walks the track. So,
that's fucking sick.
Yeah. And again, that's another story about how personal development comes around. It's the people you hang around.
Fuck me, that's sick.
And then when you're feeling a bit, my back's a bit sore, you go,
no, my ankle's
really,
a bit
mate?
sore. Poor guy doesn't have one.
Yeah, absolutely. This guy went on and tried to go to the Olympics for snowboarding for the Paralympics.
Really?
Yeah. And he has 1 point away from getting in the team. They're in Canada. He's got one more run, so he's got one chance to pick up that point, and he stacks it and breaks his back. They have to chop him off the mountain, and his partner said to him, "You've had to relearn to walk twice in the last 3 years. Can we do something not physical?" So he's just that sort of character. But he's playing golf now, and he's playing off a handicap of he's a handicap of 2 or something, something ridiculous.
That comes back to you saying right at the early piece, look for that one thing and get after it.
And just go after that one thing.
Yeah, fucking hell.
Like people who have high-performing mindsets, like a Special Forces soldier, they don't always go on to do anything great in life because they might only be high-performing in one area, which to me isn't a true high performer. But if they have the ability to overlay what they were really good at here into other areas of their life, they become a high performer in everything.
Yeah.
So you think about all of us are really good at something. Everyone in any room you walk into is better at something than anyone else. If they learn what makes them really good at that besides their interest in it and passion, and they overlay that into any other area, they can become really good at anything.
It's a skill set you can transfer to everything, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, you're not a high performer if you can only do it in one thing. Like, if you're a one-trick pony.
It's a fluke, really.
Yeah.
You can always do it again.
Yeah. And you might just be that you're passionate and you love that thing, but true high performers can become good at stuff they don't love, that they have to focus on.
100%. Now, before the questions, I just want to, for everyone in our world, in strength powerlifting who really struggles to develop calves, can we just get a zoomed in shot of this dude's calves? Look at the fucking size of these things.
Jesus.
Just go on an adventure trail.
That's climbing up and down Kokoda
Yeah, look
tracks.
at the fucking, that's my quad on his fucking shin.
I've made up for having no biceps.
Yeah, I can see where all the mass went.
Gee, I was staring down there for a while.
Yeah, well,
trying to work out what you were doing.
Let's get another zoom in. I've actually developed a calf. See this little
if that's
outline?
a calf, that ain't a calf.
You're correct. This is just a shin with some flesh on it.
On the back, attached under the skin.
Like a little thing, but that's fucked. Brock Ridsdale, eat your heart out. Jesus. Now, we have 10 questions.
How long have we been going?
How long have we been going? I don't know.
I don't know if this went
hour
where,
and 20. Hour and 20.
I don't know if this went where you wanted, but that
was perfect.
It's all good.
No, it's really good. It went exactly where I didn't know it was going to go.
Yeah,
Now, are you ready for 10 questions?
Yeah, fire
These
away.
are the most important of your life.
This is a demonstration question. you are going to demonstrate this act.
I'll probably
answer
not.
it.
Now there's two options.
Can you fit your fist in your mouth?
No.
Can you fit Brandon's fist in your mouth?
No, can they fit their fist in my mouth?
Oh, can you fit? Yeah, if it can't go in your mouth, can we fit it in Brandon's
With the
mouth?
right amount of velocity and force, I've got no doubt.
We did try with Johnny's
We tried to
fist,
fit mine in his mouth.
and it wasn't too bad. Like he went with the curling technique of like you don't start with the
You
fist.
curl over the teeth, and then you crawl in.
I'm not even going to ask where you learnt that.
I don't know. Like he creates all these questions. I just want to
You
add.
probably watch different websites than me.
Yeah,
He does for sure.
seen some things. What's your biggest regret?
I would have to say getting divorced, to be honest. And not that that was a great relationship, but any of those things I look at and go, it's the 5 years before something happens that we didn't do the work. And for both sides. And I didn't understand enough about myself to be in a good relationship. And she grew up pretty tough as well. So we were just two angry people together at a young age, both in the military. She was a soldier as well. We get on okay now, but... I don't know, like, because my parents, I had a really rough upbringing and I didn't want to be my dad. And a piece of you sees a piece of your dad in that, and that's really hard to handle. And so I wished I'd done more work at a younger age.
Who was the most attractive person in the world?
Attractive? Oh, geez, I don't know. Jamie Foxx, can I say that?
Yeah,
I
100%.
love Jamie Foxx.
He
Tate'll
is
hate me, but
a good-looking unit.
he's a good-looking
He-
unit. He's incredibly talented.
Yeah.
You didn't say I had to pick a woman.
No,
you can pick
100%.
anything.
I didn't even think of that.
Where will you be and what will you be doing 10 years from now?
I love this question. I'll tell you why I love it. Everyone that was asked 5 years ago what they'd be doing this year got it wrong.
They fucked it.
Like none of us were on. I'll be doing more of what I'm currently doing. What it will look like, I don't know. I've always had this idea that I'd like to... I'll never retire, but I'll semi-retire, as in move to the Sunshine Coast. I love the sunny coast. I like to go and visit there. I'd like to be on the sunny coast, but retirement to me is doing what I'm currently doing from somewhere else.
It's actually
That's
quite
it.
close to Noosa Barbell.
Yeah, that's also my dream.
Yeah, right.
That will be reality.
There.
Yeah. So we'll see you in the community.
Yeah,
Yeah,
or
well,
cult,
Cult either as well.
whatever people want to call it.
Or community.
You
Some
know.
will call it a cult.
It's all the C word.
Yeah. What day is your bin day?
Forgot this question.
So I've got two. The one at the gym's Wednesdays and
Yep.
the one at home's Thursdays.
I want to say congratulations for knowing both. A lot of people don't even know what their home one is.
Now,
Well,
maybe
if I don't put it out, no one does.
not 100% your lane, but you can only squat or deadlift for the rest of your life. Which one would it be?
Odd squat.
That was easy coming. We all knew
Try
that.
and
one.
work on these little fellas. And,
Mate, they're all right.
but yeah,
You know you've got
I hate
calves
deadlifts.
when your calves are bigger than your quads.
Yes.
Fuck my life.
You got to.
What are you most thankful for?
I'm just, to be honest, and this will sound really wanky, but I'm just thankful for life in this day and age that I got myself to a point where all the things that could have caused damage, and probably did when I was younger, I learnt to overcome. And so I'm in a really good headspace now where life's not perfect and I'm okay with that. Whereas, like I said earlier, I just wanted to fight the world for so many years, and I think some people do that for the rest of their life, which is sad because there's a lot of good stuff out there that we just don't take notice of. The gratitude and the gratefulness and all the stuff you hear all the gurus talk about. I hate to say it, but they're onto something, you know. Like, I'm actually very thankful for my life. Even right now, when our entire businesses have been blown up, I'm still pretty happy with where we're at.
Sick. That's cool. What's one thing on your bucket list?
I want to go. I said this to you that I want to go and stay in these glass igloos, and it's like -degrees. It's in there's some in Finland and Norway, and they're like just a bedroom with a glass igloo, and they have the northern lights up there. I've seen the northern lights.
Sick.
I've seen the northern lights a couple of times, and they're as good as any photo would show them. They're amazing, and I think I'd love to sit in one of those igloos and just have that experience.
Fall asleep under that shit. That's
That
sick.
would be cool. Now, what did you want to be when you were younger, like real young, proper junior burger?
I honestly don't really remember. I remember as a young kid thinking about being a fireman. My man was in the army, and whilst I didn't like my man, I never thought about being a soldier. And funnily enough, the first Gulf War started, so 1990, 91, that all sort of flared up. And I remember being an angry young teenager going, I want to go and do that. And that's the first time I remember wanting to do something, but I had no idea. I was off the rails as a young bloke, moved out of home young. I don't drink, I don't do drugs, but back in that young days, I was smoking a bit of weed and starting to get into the wrong crowd, and then the army righted that ship. But I don't remember anything before that, to be honest. I probably, if anything, didn't want to be in the army because my man used to make us have dress inspections and, you know, stand by your bed and have room inspections. He was intense.
Well, that's heavy. What is your greatest fear?
my greatest fear is not living up to my own potential. And I say that with the respect that I think potential is unknown and unknowable, because as soon as we achieve something, we become aware of the next circle that we could possibly achieve. But I hate this. I hate the idea of mediocrity. And society loves mediocrity. We embrace mediocrity, and that's why the world is suffering right now, because people have got no resilience because they haven't done the work in the last 5 years, like we talked about. If you're financially struggling right now, you didn't do the work in the last 5 years. If you're mentally struggling right now, you got into your comfort zone, mediocrity became okay. And as soon as you try and not be mediocre, people want to pull you down. And I'm conscious of what I do now is that we put our heads up and people want to kick it. And I'm incredibly bulletproof. I don't care. My goal is to build the people around me to be the same, to be honest.
Fucking so sick. Was that the last question?
That's it.
That's fucking dope. That whole, we could just do a whole nother podcast on what you just said. Literally, we could be here for another 2 hours, I reckon.
I probably should have warned you before we started. I am wordy.
No, you did, but I was okay with it. You did warn us, but we'll have to get you back on, and I know just the person to put you with.
Yeah,
it'll be fucking him and Paul. Yeah, you can do it. Yeah, fuck, we'll be here for 6 hours.
Yeah.
Always happy to chat.
Yeah, we can set a PB.
Oh, he's always
break 3 hours.
Yeah, that's his goal. It's good, but then it's like, fuck, it's 3 hours. That's awesome, it. Man. Thank you so much for coming on. Your story's incredible, and what you're doing now is, I think, even more incredible. And you can see where you've built, from all your experiences, this purpose now that you are living by. We'll throw everything up, all the shit that you do, because there's a lot. There's a lot. We'll throw it up all in our show notes if people want to find out and reach out. But where's the easiest way for people to contact you?
I'm pretty heavy on social. I love social media, and some people hate it, some people love it. I think it is what you make of it. I don't follow people that don't inspire me or I don't like. So I'm not following. No offence to anyone, I'm not following the Kardashians or someone and they make me feel bad about my life. So social media is the easiest way. So I've got just Glenn Azar on Instagram. I've got the Building Better Humans project, but people can follow me personally on Facebook as well. I literally post something every day. It's an addiction of mine to try and inspire. And I look back, something popped up today or yesterday from 7 years ago, and I still believe what I wrote 7 years ago, even around who you surround yourself with. So I've been doing this stuff for a long time. Pre-social media, when I used to just work, work in a gym at Albion Five Ways, we had a gym there years ago. I used to send people text messages back in the day when you could only group 10 people per text, for anyone young enough or old enough to remember that, and of motivational quotes. So I've been doing that stuff for a long time. So this is not an act for us. This is who we are. It's what we do, right? So yeah, you can follow me anywhere. It's easy to track down.
that is quite old, that reference.
I saw a quote the other day, and it said, "Do you remember when you used to have to pay per text message you sent?"
Yeah.
I remember the first mobile phones coming out. I remember when I went to Bougainville, was the first time I saw...
That name still gets me.
It's the first time I saw computers and the internet. And I come home and said to my wife at the time, because my kids were only 1 and 2, I said, we've got to get a computer. And we got this computer that had... So this is before videos or online or anything. The computer had a 16 megabyte hard drive. And I'm not saying that wrong, a megabyte hard drive. A mate of mine then went and got one, and it was in a tower. And he had 2 towers, so he had 32 megabytes. And I remember coming home from his house and saying to my wife, nobody needs 32 megabytes. That's ridiculous.
That's hilarious.
And now your iPhones have got, 500 and something gigabytes, So that was the world back then.
That's insane.
That's how old I am.
Fucking hell. I like how you said you don't follow anyone that, just doing
doesn't
better.
inspire me. Yeah.
Oh, I'm not going to follow your daughter. She'll just make me feel shit.
But do you know what I mean? People go, when you're talking with kids, and social media is a part of the problem, and it kind of is. But if we could teach kids that they get to choose who they follow, I'm not going to sit and have coffee with someone that makes me feel shit about myself. So why would I follow them? And I did everyone. I don't really follow anyone famous except The Rock, because he's The Rock,
and Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx and Will Smith, because I like all three of them. I think they use their social media in a real positive way.
Will Smith and The Rock for the motivation aspect. Jamie Foxx because everyone has their guilt. That's fine. We all have that.
He's talented.
He is talented.
I force people to watch Jamie Foxx in my house.
He's talented. Anyways, we'll wrap it up. We'll keep going.
I thought we'd ended. Sorry.
No, we still go. We love all the after chat. I love it. That's going in. This episode's just going to be called Jamie Foxx, and just watch the traction and following we get, because they'll
and a call out to
tell me
Jocko, Jocko as well.
Don't forget to share it and tag Jocko.
Tag Jocko. Put that in the cut down.
Yes. That's awesome, mate. Thank you so much, legend.
Thanks, boys.